Geoff Thompson, it's 1st of October, day one of Black History Month, founder and chair of the Youth Charter, a United Nations NGO, whose spiritual home is right here where we sit in the Moss Side Millennium Powerhouse, Manchester, England. The inspiration behind my life's work came from tragedy, as it normally tends to in life. The shooting of the 14-year-old schoolboy Benji Stanley in 1993 became the inspiration of a time which saw the first life lost on our UK streets to gang violence. Manchester were bidding for the then 2000 Olympics. I was an ambassador for those Olympics, and there was a big meeting in Manchester, a crisis meeting, because there was a lot of world attention attracted to Manchester and Moss Side. And I decided that what was being negatively said about the community and streets I'd come from needed to see it in a more positive light. I simply decided to launch a youth charter, and I took young people from Manchester and Moss Side down to London to meet young people at a big recreation conference, Recman, at Wembley, and we launched the youth charter. Since that time, it has been an incredible journey, not one I believed would become life's work, because I thought Benji Stanley's life would be the only life lost. So the inspiration comes from still being haunted by lives lost, but inspired on the basis that their lives should mean something. And the Youth Charter has a simple three-phased approach to engage young people with sport, art, culture, and digital activity, to equip them with the mental, physical, emotional, and even spiritual awareness of their skills, talent, and potential, and then to empower them, because that confidence means that they can aspire to further higher education, employability, or entrepreneurship. That is the ecosystem that makes the Youth Charter what it is. And from tragedy of losing Benji Stanley on the streets of Moss Side, 28 years on, it is a global movement of sport for development, for peace. What is your purpose? Why are you here? What will you contribute? And what will you achieve? My vision is still reflected in the mission that the Youth Charter provides, an opportunity for young people, in particular of disadvantage and disaffection. I have come from the streets. I've been fortunate enough to represent the streets for Great Britain in stadiums across the world. And I came back to the streets because that's what I represent, and I'm a voice for the voiceless. When I think about it, the fact that I was a product of a Barbadian that were very much seen as Little England and very much, sort of almost conformist to their English or British colonial masters. Whereas the Guyanese, my mum, feisty, absolute warrior, radical, activist. And the slaves that went to Guyana, it was jungle. The Arawak Indians had to be conquered and fought seriously. So when you realize what was encountered, there were encounters every day. I remember my mother, at the factory she worked, you didn't go to the toilet on your own. And if you did, you went with a screwdriver or battery acid. They were your weapons of self-defense. When lockdown came upon us and it was going to mark the 27th anniversary of the Youth Charter, we were all preparing to again present our call to action, which was firstly to develop 10 community campuses, facilities that would give our young people somewhere to go, like the Powerhouse, something to do, the right activity, but more importantly, someone to show them, the all-important someone to show them, those social coaches who would use sport, art, culture and digital latterly, not at the expense of the software between their ears, but recognising the interactive digital age that young people now live with, face and are influenced by. In 2019, we launched that in the East End of London, a very diverse reflection of society in class, power, status and influence, and we put that call to action and plan on the table. If you recall, in 2019, there was an exceptionally high loss of life, and it was deemed to be a pandemic, a crisis, an unacceptable situation. COVID came, a moment of review, reflection, and repositioning. We faced a major challenge. The Youth Charter was challenged in its very existence. Our name was threatened by way of taken away from us. We restructured. Everything was thrown at us. We held on to our faith. We told the truth to power. And the Youth Charter was retrained. By that, retrained, retained, and repositioned. And by that, charters have royal decree and royal sovereignty of copyright. So we were challenged on the basis that the Youth Charter could no longer be ours. Let's just say God has a sense of humour, and by royal decree, we were able to retain the Youth Charter. And we repositioned it from a charity into a charitable incorporated organisation. I think that whole notion of what we would do and how we would do it, lockdown, repositioning, representing, saw us resurface stronger with an absolute clarity of what we needed to do and how we needed to do it. All of the racial inequalities that we have experienced as a diaspora has only been changed by diversity of fundamental human presence. Civil rights movement, apartheid, all racial injustices have required people of all colours saying, this is wrong. I had encountered my own discriminatory experience in the higher education sector, and it made me deeply look at this country, my role in this country, and what I would contribute. So part of the healing of any significant experience of that kind means that you look at it on the basis of, was I going to step away and stay away, or was I going to get back into the fight? George Floyd was the reason I got back into the fight, and by that I mean fighting for my people, from the streets, for the streets, by the streets, continuing to advocate, lobby, challenge, tell the truth to power, articulate it, present it in a way that would confound them. As we speak, lives are being lost. This year alone, 51 lives under the age of 21. So I've learned the qualities of diplomacy and being moderate in the timing of when I would wish to present a firm position that is non-negotiable. If every life is priceless, why are we still hemorrhaging lives? And if every life is priceless, the value, if they are disproportionately reflective of lives that look like me, see me not want to still fight for them. Because for every life lost, what people still don't appreciate and understand, there are over 400 to 500 people directly or indirectly affected. In 51 lives alone in 2021, do the maths. We still don't have a youth ministry. We still don't have a task force. We still don't have a royal commission. So the Games for me is the next big effort. Games of this kind bring things together. The Youth Charter is that legacy. That's why the Mossad Millennium Powerhouse came to life. By 2000, the Millennium Fund were looking for exciting projects that would mark the millennium. This was the only youth-based project that was realised, which was inspired by the tour, the Mossad and Hume tour of Los Angeles, which again visited the Amateur Athletic Foundation, which is now LA84, which saw the proceeds of the '84 Olympics, $200 million, I might add, inspired by Peter Uberoff's vision that the Games become an economically viable entity, which gave rise to the modern hosting of Games by major cities. Saw the tour group visit, and they saw the facility, and they said, why couldn't we have one of those here in Mossad? I said, fine, that's a dream, that's an aspiration. And we made that happen, and in March 23rd, ironically, our anniversary, the Youth Charter anniversary, 7th anniversary, the Moss Hub Millennium Powerhouse was opened. A one-stop shop. Sport, art, culture, digital, enterprise, community support, a restaurant, a car workshop, a residential area for visiting youth delegations, apprenticeship training, health support. Literally every service that could be required was in this facility, and it worked, and it flourished, and it thrived. But as I've learned, there can be complacency. And I would say the Youth Charter should have retained its ownership and intellectual property for the concept. We should have brokered a rather more firmer contract of operation. And we placed 3 young people on the board who went to that historic tour group, and that was the centenary of the Olympic movement, I might add. There were so many things realised, and there was a documentary, Granada produced the documentary, so things were very buoyant. But as a diaspora, we sometimes forget that the spirit snipers and those who will continue to derail, disrupt and destroy were always evident. And this went from a youth centre that had 15 to 20 full and part-time staff to over 50. The training and the equipping of those individuals to manage the expectations of this centre. That's why I've always said in regeneration renewal, facilities are the hardware. If you get the software at the people to manage, run, operate, and make that happen. The youth zones that are all over the country, Moss Hub Millennium Powerhouse, look at the design, look at the quotes, they've all come from here. And if you look at the almost circular circumference of the design, on those walls were all of the African diaspora leaders and leaderines who had done extraordinary things in the journey of the diaspora. That was the spiritual connect that has yet to be replaced. I'm hoping they still exist because they are priceless. But as the management shifted, the leadership shifted, Billy left, it started to spiritually lose its potency of power. If young people that were supposed to be given somewhere to go were thrown out of this facility to lose their lives, that's something now I still can't handle.